Name of Deputy Brendan Smith.
Thank you very much, Cahill. Minister, as you know, and as Deputy Brown so eloquently put it earlier this morning, the local improvement scheme is particularly important for many of our rural parishes, and it's not just one or two houses sited along those individual lanes. In many instances, it can be up to half a dozen or more families living along those lanes. I know in my own county there's a huge backlog of almost 10 years, and in Monaghan as well as an 8-year waiting list. I would be particularly anxious that a substantial increase in funding should be provided for this important scheme for 2020. It's very valuable. It's a great investment in rural communities, and it's very important that that infrastructure is protected and invested in to ensure that families can live along laneways that are drivable and that are up to a standard going to people's homes. Thank you, Cahill.
Deputy, I propose to take questions 9 and 28 together. Since I reintroduced the local improvement scheme in September 2017, I have allocated over 48 million to the local authorities for improvement works on private and non-public roads. The scheme is administered by the local authority, who identify the roads to be included under the scheme each year. I have secured 10 million in funding under budget 2020 to continue the scheme next year. However, I also want to review the scheme to ensure that it operates as effectively as possible for the people who use the roads on a daily basis. This year, I introduced a cap at the level of contributions which any individual householder or landowner is asked to contribute to the cost of the repairs to their roads. However, I am still seeing a wide variation in the cost of completing these works across local authorities. I am committed to continuing my support for rural communities in 2020 under the LIS scheme, and I intend to announce a new round of funding next year when I have reviewed how the scheme has operated to date. I want to ensure that we get the best value for the taxpayers' money which is funding the scheme. The exact level of funding to be provided to each local authority will be confirmed when the scheme is announced.
Firstly, I thank the Minister for his reply. Minister, as people who represent rural constituencies, we're very conscious of the importance of this scheme over the years, and I'd love to see more money invested in it to try to reduce the substantial backlogs that are experienced in many counties. I know the funding that has been allocated to my own county over recent years, it has been drawn down, and I have to say, knowing many of the lanes and the families that are beneficiaries of them, the work was carried out to a very high standard. I'm glad that you've introduced a cap on the local contribution. In many instances it was prohibitive, maybe for older people just surviving on a pension who wouldn't have that money available to contribute. So that's important that the scheme is not put beyond the reach of people because of income pressures. Minister, can you get a message across that in many instances some members of families, a son or daughter, may want to set up a home on a site that are given by their parents. In many instances, deciding to build at a particular location, one of the factors taken into decision by people is the quality of the roadway to their home, or the quality of the road network. In many parishes, thankfully today, we have good quality infrastructure, community infrastructure, be it football and hurling clubs, soccer clubs, and also community centres, along with a great network of primary schools by and large as well. We want to try to ensure that people who wish to remain living in rural parishes, that they're not denied that opportunity.
Deputy, to be fair, again I'll ask you as a deputy for both Cavan and Monaghan, neither of the two counties, Cavan got 269,254 euros, and to date they have not drawn down one penny from my department. And it's sad that my department have to be ringing local authorities asking them to draw down money. Now, Monaghan is the same. They got a substantial amount of money. I have it here, 250,000, and to date they have not drawn down one penny. In relation to the issue that you raised, first of all, I was delighted to reintroduce this scheme. And part of the problem for this scheme is there had been no scheme for a number of years before that. That scheme had been closed down. I reintroduced it. Now, my department has played a major part in relation to LIS. I have put 48 million in since this scheme was opened a number of years ago, 2 years ago, and I'm not getting any support from anybody else. And I think the time has come that other departments need to look at putting some funding. And I'd say this, Deputy, and it's one of the issues that really annoys me about this LIS scheme, and I'm having it reviewed at the moment, is local authorities charge me from 10 to 13% an administration cost for delivering the LIS scheme when they actually should be putting money in. They should be matching the money that I'm giving them.
Thank you, Can Corda. Minister, could I just say that both Cavan and Monaghan will be drawing down the entire allocation that you've given them. I know that before the end of the year, and they'll be very glad to spend an even greater allocation next year, hopefully. If you double it or treble it, we can ensure, Minister, that it will be spent very well in both counties. And Minister, in the past, your department, through CLAR, used to be a top-up to the local improvement scheme because it was funded directly by the Department of Transport. And Minister Varadkar at the time in 2012 abolished the scheme. I'd love to see it back as a mainstream programme in the Department of Transport, and then your department supporting it in the most isolated areas with a top-up scheme. That's the route we should be going to ensure that the isolated communities are given the investment that they need and the support that they need to try to ensure that we keep as many people in rural Ireland as possible. Thank you.
The LIS scheme, and Deputy Smith raised this, I'm the one that brought the scheme back, my department, and I've been saying this since the scheme came back. I need support. I need support from the local authorities, and I need support from the... I should only, you're quite correct, be topping up the LIS scheme. And the local authorities should be putting some funding in. They have revenue, and the councillors elected, regardless who they are, can make decisions at budget any year, and they can take some of their own discretionary money and some of the money they're taking in rates and everything else, and put a bit of money into the LIS as well. I will continue the scheme for next year. I know, but at the same time, there's lots of money coming into local authorities. They're always able to find the money when they want to go, wherever they want to go, or whatever scheme they want to get involved in. And I have respect for the local authorities, but what I don't like is them charging me to administer the scheme when that should actually be going into the scheme itself.
Thank you, Minister.